Hey everyone, good morning. My name's Mark. I'm together with you can come and hang out wherever you want. Together with Frank and Jorgen, we've been putting together TADHack for a couple of months. This is the first satellite event to start because of the Australian time zone. We have a global audience watching us on, I think, YouTube and a Google Hangout. We've tested that it's live, so if you're watching remotely, good morning wherever you are, or good evening, or whatever. We're the first satellite event to go live for TADHack 2015. I think it's 14 cities around the world. I think Sri Lanka, Colombo will be the next one to wake up, so we might try and talk to them at some stage during the course of the day. So a couple of things about the weekend. It's all about having fun. It's all about playing with telecommunications APIs. It's all about innovation and clearly wearing cool T-shirts. So we've got a couple of things this morning, just by the way of kickoff, is clearly thanks to Jorgen and Oracle, we've got a great facility here in Melbourne today for TADHack and tomorrow for TADHack. I'm sure that there are facilities you found already, like the coffee machines, the munchies, the soft drinks, and where the bathrooms and everything are, so that'll all be fine. In terms of the actual hackathon, there's real money up for grabs. You all know that. You're all here busy to try and win it, which is awesome. The way that is going to be judged is through 5-minute video submissions. So in the course of the next 36 hours, at some stage, each team has to record themselves saying something about what they're doing, maybe having a couple of screen grabs of what they're doing. You can use any editing tool you want, and then we'll help you get it uploaded to the folks, both for judging here and for judging internationally. So you're up for there's a prize here donated by Telstra for the Australians, so the odds are pretty good at that. But you're also going to all be in contention for the global prizes. So you're competing against about 1,100 or 1,200 other developers around the world this weekend. So it's pretty exciting that we get to start, get an early head start here in Melbourne. Tonight at, I think it's lunchtime Lisbon, the actual TADHack keynotes will be streamed. We won't be here then, but you'll be able to hit tadhack.com, which is that website there, and the URLs will be visible. You'll be able to watch the keynotes and interact with the folks over there at the main event. That's kind of all I have to say for now. We're going to have 2 quick presentations, one from Franco Ucci, who's a developer evangelist at Telstra, and then Brian's going to do a presentation about some of the Oracle tools.
Yeah, and Franco and the guys are going to do that quick one.
Right? Who's calling you?
And Franco.
And Franco's going to do a presentation on
computer stuff.
Computer stuff, awesome, because telecommunications computer stuff, I hope. So look, that's all from me. Have a great weekend. If you're watching remotely, please tweet us at TADHack.
Yep, #TADHack.
#TADHack Melbourne.
Yeah, #Melbourne.
And # Melbourne, and we'll respond to any questions and things that you have. I think Frank's up. Welcome, Franco Ucci from Telstra.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone watching me and others. So, I just want to give you a quick plug about what Telstra's got. So, if you go to dev.telstra.com, we have a dev portal there. We have an SMS API, and we have an ID, a Connect API, where you can do it's like a 2-phase authentication to log into a website. So if you need to SMS, you can use the SMS, and we have 1,000 SMSs for free per month. So if you sign up today, I'll provision you straight away, right? So you'll get an email from me, but I'll sign you up and provision you. And there's sample code and all that. There's a whole bunch of samples to help you get started. Pretty easy once you sign. It's a RESTful API. So dev.telstra.com is where you head to. SMS, 1,000 messages per month for free. So it's a good deal to use. The Connect API is using basically does a 2-phase authentication back to a phone. You type in a code, and then that'll log you into a web page. There's another one called Mobile Connect that's based on GSMA. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a delay in terms of getting approved. So if you were to register for that, you're not going to get approved until Monday. So it's not going to help us this weekend. So we'll just use the Connect one, which is just part of the SMS. Type in the code, it helps you log on. If you need to use it, if you don't want to use it, that's cool. The SMS one would be good. If you can incorporate that, that'll be fine. Now we talked about prizes. So there's global prizes. I think there's 36 separate categories and $1,000 per prize. But we actually have $1,000 local prize. So there's 3 teams, $1,000. You've got a good chance, right, to win, right? So the way we're going to do that is notionally, we're going to code from 12 to 12. So we start at 12 today. We'll probably start earlier. We'll finish at 12 tomorrow, and then we'll do a presentations at 1, if we want. We'll kind of play it by ear, but we definitely have to upload your set presentation for the global thing. So we definitely make sure that you get your work recognised and part of the global event that's happening. We'll do our own little local ceremony at sort of after lunchtime tomorrow. $1,000 up for grab, thanks to Telstra. Right, so that's sort of the local prize that we have for that. So like I said, there's 3 teams, so the odds are pretty good, right? To sort of work through that. So that's what I wanted to cover. As Mark said, you know, this is really the first time that we've done a TAD Hack in Australia. TAD Hack's been running for a couple of years. They've run in other countries. They've done different things. So it's a great opportunity for us to participate in this global community. TAD stands for Telecom Application Developers. It's really anything to do with telco and telecommunications. So that's sort of the genesis of it. And a lot of it is about, you know, disrupting telcos and providing over-the-top services. And telcos are trying to, you know, be part of that as well, because they don't want to get disrupted. Hence why Telstra's getting into the API game. So if you want to ask questions, I'm happy to talk to you about what Telstra's doing and where we're going, and fill you in on what the thinking is during the day. But that's the sort of the plan. So the key thing is we want to be able to show something by you know, midday tomorrow, do a local presentation amongst ourselves for a local prize, and then submit that to the global community to see if we can get some other prizes and participate in this thing as well. So it should be fun, and yeah, look forward to joining and chatting and seeing what's going on. So now I guess the next point is I'm going to hand over to Brian. Brian's got a bit of a talk on I don't even know what you're talking about. So I'm looking forward to it. So we'll find out. So Brian.
So I'm pretty excited to be here. I've been talking telco APIs for many, many years. So it's good to have something like this finally come down and happen in Melbourne. I work for the industry business unit, the telco industry business unit at Arrigo. And I'm just going to have a short presentation. It's not a product pitch, it's very much a technology pitch. I hope it's of interest. Innovation in telecoms, surprisingly, is very difficult. It's encumbered by a lot of legacy, and in its move towards IP-ification has basically a whole interop issue. So while it's like a technology industry, it is actually very, very hard to innovate in telecoms. You compare that to the web, and that is where all the innovation is happening. And if you look at where standardizations, typical signaling telco, all the actual application logic is bundled in with the actual protocols. When we move to IMS and SIP, that's a little bit unbundled, but we get into this interop hell with all these different RFCs and standards. You move to the web world, and everything is open, and I guess there's not a lot of the legacy telco standards there. So where do you think innovation happens the most? Why telcos struggle to actually innovate? Because they have this enormous amount of legacy, and it's not easy to really onboard these over-the-top web applications. So what we've seen is a move towards this, and we see like Frank's team and all that doing some really innovative stuff with this. But we're seeing other types of telecommunications come from the website, and one of those I'm going to talk about is WebRTC. Now, I'd like to get a feeling for who's actually heard of WebRTC here. That's pretty good. Normally when I ask that, not many people put their hands up. But WebRTC is really, really interesting because it comes from the HTML, it comes from the web world. It's JavaScript. it's HTML5, it's all the latest technologies. We're actually using WebRTC now. We're using Google Hangouts here, which is a WebRTC-based technology. What WebRTC is audio, video, and data from the browser. So you can actually connect two browsers up and do audio, video in real time, and it's all inbuilt into your browser. It's inbuilt into Chrome, it's inbuilt into Firefox. Firefox have a hello service, and you can actually do IP communications, messaging from the Firefox hello. One of the interesting things is the protocols and codecs are all open. They're not like the telco standards. They don't use SIP for the signaling. They don't. They use open source or unencumbered codec-free codecs. So there's no. One of the problems in the telco world is most of the codecs that are used are actually licensed to different network equipment operators. So they've chosen to use codecs which are unroyalty encoded. So there's no, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but there's no
IP royalty.
IP royalty, yeah.
That's right.
So with WebRTC, we have the media engine built into the browser. So we actually have a full media engine that can take various different codecs. It's peer-to-peer. So when you're doing different things, it's actually happening peer-to-peer. So it's browser to browser. When you're doing data transfer, data sharing, it's actually going from one browser directly. So part of the signaling sets up that stream, and then once it's connected, it goes from browser to browser. I'm going to give you a quick demo of a WebRTC-enabled web page. Bear with me for a few minutes. So you can imagine using something like realestate.com. You log in. You may have a realestate.com account. You log into that. You might have saved houses that you actually looked at. I'm going to log in on this phone as an agent, as the agent. So if you could imagine when an agent's on site, he could actually log in to this site on his phone and actually give you a virtual tour of the house. So in this web page, I can actually see the agent online and I can contact him.
Oh yeah, but then, yeah. So that's of interest. Like you always put JavaScript on, just go through
Sorry, the demo gods of.
That's right, we can see you. That's right.
It's working.
What happens if you click share?
There you go. So it's working properly. You get the idea. Is so you can actually connect the buyer and seller in real time with this technology. So I'm doing voice and video. You can hear that, but I can also do manipulate this map. So the website becomes collaborative. So if I move this around on here, it's actually reflected on the screen in here, and vice versa. If I move it here, it'll move on this side as well. I can actually annotate this as well. So I can draw on this screen, and it will actually appear on the other person's screen. So this is using the data channel. So this is just raw messaging going between the two browsers to make this website collaborative. This is all, the Chrome on this browser is a little bit hard to use. But to get the concept, it's really, really powerful what you can do with WebRTC. Voice, video, and if you look at this page, it's just JavaScript. There's nothing else required, no plugins required. So there's a lot of WebRTC services out there, and you probably don't know that you're actually maybe already using WebRTC right now. Amazon has a very innovative service called the Mayday button built into the Kindle. You press the Mayday button, you get instant technical support. You're actually connected directly to a customer support person. And that's where one of the industries where I think WebRTC is really going to take effect. Most enterprises are interfacing with their customers either via their website or via an app on their phone. With WebRTC, when you actually want to buy something, you can get the instant information straight away, and it's contextualized. With the Kindle Mayday, when you look for help, the person can actually see what you're seeing and can actually show you in real time how to do what you need to do. And this is really important for websites and things like that. When people are close to doing a purchase, you may want to have that WebRTC ability to really make sure that they finalise that purchase, so they've got no questions left at the end of it. I know Telstra have a chat function, when you want to buy a service, but often I want a little bit more than that, and it would be great if we could actually upgrade that chat to an actual person, and they can actually give me the information I need, particularly if I'm a high value customer. And that's what American Express do with WebRTC. If you're one of their platinum members, you have this voice sort of concierge type service when you log into their service. So this is a commercial WebRTC service that's been launched. Similarly, Royal Bank of Scotland have just providing internet banking support via WebRTC. So if you have a big enough mortgage or a big enough savings account, you get a certain level of service with Royal Bank of Scotland in a concierge type service. You see a lot of the existing IP messaging type capabilities move over to WebRTC. I think we're going to have some of the Wire people talk at the global event, but Wire is a messenger based on WebRTC. Skype for Web is in beta and is now it is using a slightly different standard, which is merging with WebRTC, but that is commercially live right now as well. Atlassian have bought a WebRTC company, and they actually have WebRTC support for their collaboration built into their product. So that they use some of the commercially available WebRTC services to allow collaboration through their product. So there's a lot of services out there. Google with the Chromecast device, so if you bought one of them, $50, it's WebRTC enabled. Comcast, their X1 platform, they've used WebRTC to do a lot of the streaming services in that as well. To why is Oracle in this space? We actually have a very interesting product in the space. We have a WebRTC client SDK, and that is JavaScript based. And that allows you very, very simply to write WebRTC enabled applications. But we solve one of the problems with WebRTC is connecting it up with existing telephone networks. So we provide a signaling engine which goes from the web world into the SIP world. And that allows you to connect up to enterprise telephony systems. We have a very highly available media engine too, which can actually change the media from going from the web world into actual enterprises. So it's a very comprehensive platform. We've got some customers running on it. I've actually talked about a couple of them already. In the latest release, we've actually also added Android and iOS SDKs to it. So it allows you to not only use the JavaScript SDK, but actually develop native iOS and Android apps. So if you don't know, Apple has not really played its cards on WebRTC. So to do WebRTC on an Apple device, you need something like our iOS SDK to use it. This is designed to be highly scalable for enterprises and telcos. So we have a very highly available component here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the client SDK features. So one of the things in our SDK is it's actually independent of any particular browser. So we take care of the differences with WebRTC, whether it's Firefox, or whether it's Chrome, or whether it's Opera, or whether it's a mobile version of that. We take care of it. It's just a single interface to the developer. We have different message packages for different WebRTC events. The session package takes care of the authentication, registration into a SIP network. The call package does call and chatting. And the messaging package is the data transfer package you use for things like screen sharing and annotation on someone else's screen. This SDK talks JSON, a protocol. We have an RTC protocol across JSON, and it talks to our signaling engine. And our signaling engine can talk to all the elements of it in a SIP network. So what is going to SIP give you? It gives you that telco reliability. Basically, WebRTC is standalone, doesn't specify any signaling protocol. Google use an XMPP protocol called Jingle. But by using SIP, it really allows you to leverage all the existing telephony infrastructure that we have out there. And there's lots of that in the enterprise, and obviously the telcos, that's the bread and butter. So it allows you to mix the web world with the traditional telco SIP world and bring those two together. So it's quite a powerful platform. We're seeing a lot of customers who are taking traditional telephony applications and they're exposing them in a different way on WebRTC. So, you can have your telco services with you wherever you go. So if you go overseas, you could possibly log into your telco's account and have VoIP versions of all the services that you use today. One of the things we also provide is high availability. So with traditional WebRTC, if this Wi-Fi connection happened, we would have to reconnect each other. So, there's no media continuity. So we would just basically close the stream and we'd have to set it up again. With our product, what we actually have is highly available media. So if you go from 3G to Wi-Fi, rather than the service just suspend, we resume the media. So we have what we call media anchoring here. So it basically maintains that media session and waits for you to reconnect. So you have highly available media. So when you're driving in your car and you go from 4G to 3G, we're able to resume that media uninterrupted. And that's exactly what you expect with a voice call, on Telstra today. But we're doing this for WebRTC. One of the things also on our signaling engine is we provide high availability here. So if your browser crashes, like my browser crashed when I was setting up that demo, we actually maintain all the messages that we've been sent on this server, and they're highly available in a cluster. And when this JavaScript client reconnects, we resend all those messages to the browser. So it can sync up from where I was before. So we actually maintain the WebRTC or the WebSocket session here as well and make that highly available. So you can see here just the basic stuff. It's very simple to use. It's JavaScript. I'm not going to go through this, but it's designed to be really, really easy to use to write an audio and video service inside this. So I've talked a lot about WebRTC. Oracle has a sandpit. I'm going to talk about that in a minute if you're not familiar with it. Is anyone going to develop against it? Here?
Yeah, I've got the sample up and running over there. So
yeah. Very good, very good. So I just want to explain briefly what's in that. We have our WebRTC product inside that, which I've been talking about, and if you've got some time, please go and take a look at the samples that we have. It's quite an interesting widget that we have. The other components we have are our API gateway, and we use that to expose telecom API services, and they are messaging, payment, and there's location in there as well. So these are services, sort of telco services exposed through our API gateway. The other component we have is our SIP engine, SIP servlet engine. So Oracle actually provide a JSR specification for SIP development, and it's called JSR 309. And Oracle actually developed that spec, and it is a programming model for writing SIP applications. So writing SIP applications is not necessarily for everyone, but a lot of people have done development on this and done some very, very scalable applications. So we have customers who have bet their business on this container, and they actually run like enterprise-grade conferencing services. So Intercall is an example of that. They run their business is conferencing, and they run this on our SIP applications. So they're the three components that are there. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the SAMPit. There's a webinar on our resources, so you can actually go to this on the blog at TADHack and look at the developer resources for Oracle. Skip through this. So, what does Oracle want from TADHack? We're just looking for your guys' inspiration from your guys. You guys are the ones who are doing probably the innovative stuff here, and we're just really we're providing a platform for you guys to hopefully do some innovative stuff. So just have fun with it. We're here to help. So if you want to use our platform, you'll get all our support. We also have a global team who's supporting it. I'm here locally to support. We also have a global team available to support it as well. So this is the Oracle SAMPit environment. It's designed to be pretty simple to get yourself up and running. You sign up and get a credential. It should happen pretty quickly. You can see here the different components we have in it. We have WebRTC. We have payment, message, and location. There's one missing there. This is an old version of the site. There's a SIP one there as well. And with WebRTC, it shows you all the WebRTC resources. So if you click on one of these, you get to see the available resources. This is one of the apps that we have. So you can download this app. So we have access to our APIs, and there's also a sample app for all of these. So you can download these and actually run them yourselves as well. Just an example of doing a messaging. So this is the SMS API. Payment, so you can actually charge something. So charging is quite important because it's one of the biggest uses of our API gateway at telcos for doing carrier billing. So like Google offer a carrier billing option. So rather than pay with Google with your credit card, you can charge it to your prepaid or postpaid account. So that's an example of doing charging. We have a lot of operators doing payments with this product.
Any in Australia?
Yes, Telstra one of them.
Nice.
Anyone else?
There is this.
Is there anyone else? Seriously, is there anyone else?
So we used to have there used to be a Cricket Live app from Vodafone, and with that, you could, with your pre or postpaid account, you could get access to the video stream. And it was very handy because most of the time you wanted to use it, you're probably actually at the game anyway. So rather than, put down your popcorn or whatever, you just pull out, you just press, charge to my account, and you've got instant access to the video stream. So there's a lot of use cases for doing carrier billing because it's contextual, you don't have to pull out credit cards and you already have that billing relationship with your telco. Location, so we have, there's a location simulator and you can call our location APIs to do location by the telco's network. So this is not GPS location, it's by the telco's location. So yeah, there's an app there that sort of puts it all together, does payment, does messaging, does location. WebRTC, there's a sample app there. It's quite fun. I was using it. It's also sort of can connect you up with the other TADHack people around the world. It's pretty simple, so you can use that to get started as well. We have lots of other examples as well of using our SDK. So that's just an example of how you embed that component in your page. Very, very simple to use. And there's also the SIP container there as well. So I don't think we'll have anyone using it here, but that's where you can use SIP application development and run it as well. So to give you an idea, this is a typical call for SIP application. This is ringing, sets the call up, some media, and it hangs up. So we use a platform called SIP-P to actually simulate setting up a call. But what I more interestingly want to show you is how we do that. So it's very simple to write a simple calling application. This is an example of a SIP servlet that does that. And you can see from a code perspective just how easy to set that up. In the 3.5.9, this is the latest version. We actually use annotations to set this up. So it's very, very simple to write calling applications. And that's the thing, I don't know if Frank's like an IN guy, probably not. But, when you talk about IN and NGIN and voice services, today they're just an app. That's all it is, it's an app. And we get very caught up in the services embedded in telecom. They're just apps. And if you pull it back from this, it's really easy to program the network, developing applications on top of it. So that's what I hope you do. These guys at Arrigo, but if you are interested, these resources are there, and I hope you go and have some fun with them. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Is it me next?
Yep.
Like your machine.
Hey, cheers. Thanks very much, Brian. Look, we've got one more presentation, and then we're going to get you guys doing some hacking. So please welcome Franco, who's going to talk about telecom stuff.
Well, we'll talk about how we've looked at it to apply. It's more about application. It's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome Franco.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Brian. That actually, the Oracle team, or Team Meerkats, we started to look at WebRTC and got quite excited about what it could mean. And now understanding where it fits and a little bit more about it, I think it reinforced why it's a good thing. So what our team has been looking at is potential applications of how we can improve the mobile user experience with what's happening out there, with what mobile operators can provide. So, so I think there's no question, all of us have got mobile devices, and our expectations of how to use mobiles is continually increasing, and what organisations are expecting of what's possible with mobiles is increasing. And it doesn't matter where you are, it just keeps on getting more and more expectations. And I think people have said, yeah, we get it, I know that, right? But the thing is, how do we actually provide a significantly better mobile experience regardless of the size of the organisation? Because I think if you're a big bank or a big telco or a big organisation, they've got the resources to create these really clever smart apps. So what we were thinking about is, how can we provide a significantly high-end experience for anybody and everybody? So the question is, how do we do that? So you look at the food market, you look at what people enjoy eating, whether it's a hamburger or some Asian food, there's the opportunity for everyone to have a really good meal experience according to what they want. So what we're talking about here is most people tend to focus on the high-end user, the business executive that's got a lot of money to spend. And so what we're thinking about is, how can we personalise the engagement, specifically taking advantage of some of the things we've just spoken about, context, location, behaviour, persona, etc., and actually provide something that makes sense, not just for the high-end executive, but actually how do we do it? Whether you're a student, a mature person, someone who's bringing up a family, young kids,
or even just kids playing soccer. How do we actually provide an underage soccer team with some good services, or people actually out there in rural Indigenous communities? How can we actually do something that gives them the same opportunities to improve what they're trying to do as the high-end person? So that's what we've looked at. And obviously, you look at what we've got here, there is the opportunity to do that, especially given the technologies that are out there today. And so these technologies, we need to work out how do we mix and match and bring together some sort of blend and then set it up such that everybody can actually participate with it at a minimal cost and relatively quickly. So what we've done is we've looked at a couple of these technologies that we're quite excited by, and I think WebRTC stands out, but we didn't want to focus just on WebRTC. Let's grab WebRTC, and most of us are quite religious about what APIs can do for an organisation, and let's actually pick something we haven't touched before, and we've got these beacons as well. Do one of you guys want to grab one, and I'll just show one on the thing there. So what we're looking at is how do we take a few of these technologies, bring them together, combine them, and actually work out how can we make life better for communities. So, thanks Ash. So here's an example of what these beacon things are about. So they're just small devices, right? Very small. They're Bluetooth enabled, got a small battery in them. Maybe just move them around so everyone can see them. And they can interact with our smartphones. So we've picked up, we can actually bring together things like WebRTC and these beacons, etc. And it is all about APIs. We're actually seeing APIs as the place where this can come together. And obviously, if you've got an architecture that knows how to bring that up, we can then start to actually take advantage of it. So a lot of what we've got here today, what we're going to be working on, it's actually about trying to get the right set of APIs that support what we can do for more about the communities. Okay, let's get specific. Let's get really into the specifics about what we're talking about here. So the first thing is, we do want to use these beacons. So every time I walk up close to one of these beacons, we want it to do something. We want it to flag something. Once the beacon is actually engaging with what I've got on my app, we want it to actually get something from me as well. So the beacon itself will send something to me, but every now and again, I will need to interact with the beacon. And then there's an opportunity for me, once I've got a bit of a relationship going, I can actually start to talk a little bit about myself. And then the next stage is actually about asking for something. And if you look at this here, this is effectively a pattern. So the first one is regular touch, then there's some sort of engagement, then there's something about myself, and then there's me asking for something. So we're actually coining this the best. It's a best pattern. And it's actually got two things to look at. So there's two elements of the best pattern. The first thing is it's got a technology outcome, right? So it's about how we utilize this technology. The second thing, it's actually about organizational behavior, right? So there's two elements here. Now, obviously, 90% of what we're going to be dealing with here is about the technology. So I'll go through the technology bit first. So let's talk about what the beacon can do. It can actually provide a rotating message from a gallery, and then as the message is coming to me every time I touch the beacon, it can actually drill down to more detail, and it can record that I bothered to look at the message. So that's the beacon. Then after 3 or 4 or 5 of those beacon things, it can actually start to engage with me. It can ask me, how do I feel about something, and record when I've done it. And then the self-service thing is about me being able to maintain some information, and then the ability for me to kick off a few things. So what's a good example of this? Well, here's the example of a uni student walking into their campus, or maybe walking into their faculty. The uni student can find out the exam timetable is out, new written skills workshop, women in leadership talk is coming out, the concert schedule is coming. And then they're the messages that are coming 3 or 4 times. And then there might be a multiple choice, how ready do I feel about my exams? Or can you please rate your university facilities? And then I can actually say, I'm interested in physics, I'm interested in chemistry. And then I can actually ask for, I actually want to go and get my timetable schedule. Or maybe I actually want to talk to a lecturer. Or maybe I actually want to get some help from my tutor. Right? So you can start to see where the WebRTC stuff comes in. So we've got some beacon technology, we've got some WebRTC type stuff. But we've got this best approach here in terms of using the technology. And for the university student, there's the organisational behaviour where they're trying to be the best they can be, right? And then we've got exactly the same scenario for a mature person walking into a pharmacy. So some deep messages about health, cosmetics. Maybe I'm interested in getting an optical check or enrolling in the Pilates class, or maybe I actually want to talk to someone around what's going on here. What we're trying to say is this framework can be consistent whether you're a uni student, a pharmacy, walking into Bunnings, or being in an Indigenous community just trying to find out what's going on. So we're trying to provide that capability. We're also suggesting it needs to be quick and a low-cost approach to get this thing up and going. So what we're hoping to see is this framework is generic enough. The only thing that's different is the data that's loaded into here. You can see there's probably 4 data sets that someone can actually create and maintain themselves. And here we actually try and break down and make it clear that the technology tooling I've just spoken about, and specifically for the university, it's actually backed up around that organisational improvement that I mentioned. Right? So this is about people. This is about how people can improve what they're doing, and whether you're in a soccer club or as a university student, it's actually got relevance there. And here's the actual example we're talking about. As a student, I walk in, and I walk into the faculty, and here I walk past the beacon in the physics faculty, and it sends me a notification at something about what's happening in the physics faculty here. I then actually get some sort of opportunity to provide some feedback, maybe about upcoming assignment or an assignment I've just done. And then I can also say I'm interested in table tennis and specifically physics 101. And then I've got an opportunity maybe to find out some more information or connect with a lecturer or connect with a peer using something like WebRTC. And you can see the idea is this is a uni student. You can turn this into someone in a health clinic or someone walking through Bunnings, etc. And the only thing that's different is the data sets. That's the only thing that's different. And this is probably a good time for me to, where's Clarence? Right up here. Good time for me to hand over to Clarence, who'll take you through the next stage.
So thanks Franco. So I think what I'll do is very quickly highlight some of the APIs considered under covers and specifically how a couple areas I think it's worth having a little bit of a deeper look. So if you look at the best framework here, at a very high level conceptually, as I said, we're enabling this via a set of APIs. There's a number of component layers that we thought, there's obviously a bunch of back-end systems that we need to engage with, touch, transact with, and so forth, some in the cloud, some on-premise. But in this layer here, we're looking at, the identity and security layer, right? In personalizing and recognizing who the user is, that's an important layer. The whole user experience is important. And as Franco said, how do we model this from a data relationships perspective is also very, very important. I'll start off with the identity and security layer. So there's actually a bunch of things that we need to do here. So quite often that we see mobile apps being rolled out with a very late consideration in terms of who the user is. And the first thing is we prompt the log-on screen from the user and say, punch in your user ID and log on. The other option is, don't worry about logging in. We'll just remember who you are and forever on, you stay logged on. So you got one balance of it's a higher, a more secure solution, but it's actually very, inconvenient. Or you have a solution where, you just trust them and, bad things might happen.
Might hook it up to Telstra's Connect now, though.
Use that. Yep. So that's one of the options to, further, harden the overall experience, right? But there's actually a number of different ways to have a better way to remember me. Right? So that's a function that I think is, from a mobile app perspective, we're moving towards more of a minimal authentication path. So, you can imagine there's a bunch of APIs in the back end that we want to access. We've got an app that we've just downloaded, whether it's a native or a hybrid app. I'm now, first time trying to log in and engage with the app, right? What happens there? The app knows nothing about me, okay? I need to somehow register, right? So it's a great opportunity to capture the username, password, capture things about, the devices, fingerprinted, right? And then have a mechanism to actually, instead of just do a one-time authentication, actually store something about the tokens and remember who the user is. And how do we then actually use it, right? So one example I've seen very popular in banks and a lot of applications out there is the use of simplified things like pins, right? So you can actually prompt the user for a pin when you need to. There's a lot of apps that we're seeing out there actually don't prompt a pin until you do something a little more secure. So even some of the banks we're seeing, for mobile banking, allow you to do things like check your balance, send your friends bank details and so forth without the need for logging on. If you do need to access business APIs in the back end that requires a bit more strong authentication, then you can start to request for what we call an access token here, which will then involve potentially a pin being used. You're swapping a long-lived token on a device with something that you can create for that session. Now, what does it actually mean? So there's a number of different standards out there that supports this already. So if you look at OAuth, for example, there's a protocol called Refresh Token Protocol in OAuth that actually supports this model. Okay? There's also other methods of achieving the same thing, proprietary or open-based. But what that gives you is there's a token to remember me instead of caching username and passwords. I'm not saying that people here do, but I'm surprised the number of times I go and review applications that they're still doing that. There's a better way of making the experience simpler. Rather than just doing that. So we can start to sort things like, control the policy centrally. We can, collect a lot of information about the devices that are connecting to us and linking that to the user, capturing their consent, and also building up the persona, right? So I think that's a very powerful way of, that's an area that's often overlooked. But we think that with some enabling APIs there, we can really make a much richer and simpler experience. UX as well, so building on from that, I think quite often, I know a lot of you would be thinking, you've got beacons there, you've got notifications there, and it's going to be really annoying for someone that really don't want to be, receiving the messages. So I think it's really important to understand the persona, the context, and the preferences, right? How to switch things off, how to, answer a question before they ask, right? And so this is not a simple thing to solve, but evolution and the emergence of, more and more sophisticated, more powerful big data solutions out there. We can start to plug in a lot more of these analytics in order to drive stronger notifications and also behavioral cross-channel, etc. In terms of transact, so this is where I think Brian touched upon that as well. There's a lot more options these days for us to have a richer experience around how we transact with people. So we're building in the flexibility of having some generic methods of transacting with the backend organization, but in the back end you can actually plug in a different set of APIs depending on which is more appropriate. So you've got the web RTC APIs that Brian talked about, and also some might be transact APIs that actually touch your back-end systems, whether it's in cloud or on premise. So design a data model. So we didn't want to build something that was only going to be a very, very clever app that only works for one particular industry or use case. We wanted something that we can apply across many, many different industries, but take us 20% there with 80% that we can customize and enable further. So we've got this flexible data model that we're considering around when we now need to enable a new use case for that. How do we very quickly load a bunch of JSON objects into the repository and then have that then enable a very different user experience out there. Okay, so create a pharmacy example in minutes. Okay, so that'll be the challenge for us. Okay, so just a quick plug about some of the technologies behind the scenes. So a bunch of Oracle mobility technologies that we're engaging with. So the application framework that we have for mobility, but also the size technology that's multi-channel, so that you can actually capture things that happen in the web channel and have that behavior also reflect, how the user engages in the mobile channel as well, because it's actually cross-channel that we're looking at these days. Typically, a cloud service that enables us to very quickly allow developers to access the APIs and also very quickly create applications out there. And obviously the security and identity set of APIs that enable us to do all the token swapping and cool stuff. We're also, looking at the web RPC APIs that we mentioned before. And I also think that and we'll talk a lot about the JSON and REST APIs and so forth. So there's also a number of different options that we can look at and how to achieve that. So NoSQL database behind the engine, and also the use of beacon technology. And as I said, the mobile cloud service, something that we've just released recently. We're seeing a lot of interest around that, especially around looking at an API development perspective, as well as making mobile apps, being enabled very, very quickly. So that's a mobile cloud service that is part of our overall, PaaS platform that Oracle has now. So I think with the use of, cloud services that are available out there, can really make this a lot quicker. Especially if you look at things like, the Node.js service, as well as some of the integration and process services out there that can be leveraged. Okay, so just a quick, preview of some of the things that are behind the scenes that's happening. As a wrap up, though, Franco introduced the best pattern framework that we're looking at here. Really, it's from an organizational behavioral point of view, be the best that you can be. From a technology point of view, how can we have a baseline that we can very quickly roll applications out there with this, standard, really raising the bar up there, right? From the user engagement and behavior perspective. The key focus on APIs. So through this, experience, I think, we're going to find that there's a lot of, available APIs out there. And in fact, this morning I've learned of a couple from Telstra that we can, start to play with, as well as, things that you can build your own through, various different technologies. And I really think I came from a security background. Again, that's the thing that I find in mobile applications. We tend to either overcook it or underbake it. I think there is a good, middle ground that we can strike with the different options that are out there. And I think that's it from us. Yeah, hopefully, looking forward to today and knocking out, an app that we can use. So we'll see something working tomorrow.
All right, a big thank you again to all of our speakers this morning. They did a great job. That's it for the formal part of, at least the presentation part of TADHack Melbourne. Now's the fun bit. Go hack something. A couple of reminders. Again, 5-minute video submissions. We want to help you put them up and get them loaded by tomorrow morning, if possible. Yeah. So if we can help you in any way today. Again, a big thanks to Oracle for making the facility here in Melbourne available to us. We'll do some pictures and send it to the rest of the TADHack community, especially the folks in Lisbon. But it's a great facility. It's got great bandwidth. We're really going to enjoy, I think, spending some time here over the next 36 hours, 24 hours, whatever. So a couple of things, the 5-minute presentations. If you look at tadhack.com, there'll be a bunch of resources there for obviously the Oracle, but also some of the other sponsor APIs, some of the other tools and utilities that are available. We encourage you to do that. If you have any issues with any of those APIs, we've got, Frank, Jorgen and I have access to some of the support resources online over the weekend, so we can help with that if you need to. And I think that's kind of it for me. Thank you everyone for being here this weekend. Go fuel up on Coca-Cola and sugar and coffee and everything you need to go build some amazing stuff, and have a fantastic weekend. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you. And if anyone's watching at home, this is where we're going to cut the video feed. If you want to talk to us, please do so. Hashtag TADHack, hashtag Melbourne. And Frank, Jorgen, and I will pick up any tweets, any questions we can, and we can talk to you directly if you need to. So everyone, if you're playing along at home, you've got again, 5-minute video submissions. You've got every opportunity to win, same as the folks here, same as the folks anywhere. Enjoy, have a great hackathon. Thank you very much.